Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for showing up and coming here this morning so we can have this incredible time with our keynote speaker, Dr. Christopher Emdin. Today, he is going to talk to us about reality, pedagogy, and the rights of the body, which our team is really excited about, especially for our students to maybe even be able to watch this later on in the school year. Dr. Christopher Emdin is our keynote speaker. He is an amazing educator and a force in education. His biography is too long to go through. I do encourage everyone to go to his website. I'm going to link it and send it out to everybody today, but I recommend it. He's an incredible educator and is really moving the ball down the field. So we're really excited. We also have today, which is also very exciting, Jonathan Webb, who is going to be our ASL interpreter. So everybody can enjoy Dr. Emdin's speech. So without any further delay, Dr. Emdin, go ahead, take the floor.
All right, greetings everyone. All the folks in Chicagoland. I am deeply humbled to have the opportunity to share some words with you today. Over the course of the last decades or so, I've been in communication with a lot of educators in Chicago. They'll come up to me at conferences or at events or teacher gatherings and share that they've heard of my work or been implementing my work in some way, but I've never been directly speaking to folks in Chicago. So I'm super excited, super humbled, and super inspired to share some words with you today. And as the new school year is beginning, and as all the issues are emerging across the landscape in Chicago about schools and 5% are overcrowded and then this many is underfunded or underfocused upon, as we get a new mayor coming in to make differences across the school system, as educators grow in either frustration or love or passion as it relates to the work. I just want us to go back and center on why we do what we do. One of the things that I know is absolutely important about the craft of teaching is that you won't find your way until you remember your why. And so let's dismiss all the other stuff across the landscape for just a little bit and begin today by remembering why you chose to teach to begin with. And when you go back there, you start realizing that we all chose this craft, we chose this work, we chose to have impact in these ways because we care about young people. And we want young folks to have experiences in schools that are transformative. Essentially, the work of the educator is simply to be the conduit through which young folks find themselves and feel like they can be fully actualized to go out in the world and affect positive change. We are simply ushers to allow young folks to take their seats to lead this nation, this world forward in powerful ways. And if you think about why you chose this craft, it's because you're a person of service. And we get distracted by the expectations or the perceptions of what we are and what we do, the way that our craft gets politicized, the ways that folks who have no idea what it means like to be able to stand in front of a classroom and have a couple of teenagers or elementary students look to us for direction about what life could be. We get distracted by folks who don't know what we do. And so as you begin this school year, begin with recognizing your why. Why did I do this? Was it for the check? Probably not. Right? Was it for the accolades from the world? Probably not. Was it to be a pawn in somebody's political machine? Probably not. We did this because we want to be in service to young folks, because we've chosen to see young people in ways that are beyond just minimal and just small people that we're going to have memorized information. We chose to do this to get them right in the world. So I will begin this talk about reality, pedagogy, and the rights of the body by saying our job as educators is to bear witness to the realities of youth experiences. And if you're listening to this, your question is probably well, Doctor, what does bear witness mean? Does it mean to witness them things? No. The world of education has made teachers who have a capacity to bear witness to simply just witness. When you're just witnessing, you're just observing, right? You're observing things as they go by. I witnessed a crime. I can tell you exactly what happened. I witnessed an event. I could describe to you what the event was. I witnessed young folk come out of a pandemic. I saw them all usher themselves back into classrooms. Witnessing is just visual. To bear witness is to be able to be in touch with the soul, to delve into the realities of youth experiences. So when I talk about reality pedagogy, the precursor to reality pedagogy is activating the educator's capacity to go beyond just witnessing to bearing witness. When you go to the Pentecostal Black church, for example, the preacher will preach and say, can I get a witness? The preacher's not saying, do you see what I see? This is just saying, just your soul, your heart, your very being, your spirit, connect to what I'm saying. Do you bear witness? See, to witness is to be able to see data and say the data says this, so we must teach that. The witness is, here's the lesson plan, here's the script. Let me just follow the script. It's very superficial. So witness is just to use your natural senses. To bear witness is to say, hey, wait a minute. I feel like something's going wrong with that young person. Let me develop the capacity to be able to understand what they're going through every day as I teach them. So I want us to go from witnessing to bearing witness. And the question you might ask then is, well, Dr. E, how do I bear witness? Well, you can only bear witness to something. You can only bear witness to a phenomenon when you understand that this is beyond just being culturally relevant, which is what we get thrown into the landscape of educators. Like, be culturally relevant to kids. Look, they're Black kids from Chicago. They're from the West Side. So they probably like hip hop. Witness hip hop. Try to incorporate hip hop. Superficial. To bear witness is to go beyond cultural relevance. To say, I can't be culturally relevant to a child if I am basing my perceptions on their culture through this filter that is my own brain and my own mind, right? I can't make assumptions about what's in front of me. I've got to understand what's in front of me. So cultural relevance is significant to delve into a reality pedagogy, to delve deep, to connect to the complications of the experience. To bear witness is to go beyond just superficial cultural relevance into a understanding of the realities of their experiences. And you cannot delve deeply into the reality of somebody's experiences unless you honor them and feel like they're deserving of all the rights that all human beings in the world deserve. No matter what their circumstances are, their ethnic background, their racial background, their sexuality, that I see a young person in front of me, I witness not just the skin and the thing in front of me, but I want to bear witness to the soul I have to connect to allow them to be able to become their best self. So you get to reality pedagogy through being able to bear witness. You cannot bear witness and engage in reality pedagogy until you first give young folks what I call the rights of the body. The rights of the body is like, okay, that young person has a right to learn. That young person has a right to joy. That young person has a right to be able to be engaged in the classroom. So you have to see the best self of the young person first before you can bear witness to them. Because if you don't see the best of them, then you'll only witness them. To bear witness to them is to be able to say, okay, I see you as deserving of more than what the world has given you. And you can't get to bear witness unless you have these rights of the body. And so now I want to connect y'all to this idea of the rights of the body. Don't pull no slides up. Let's just talk today. The slides complicate things. This is soul and spirit work. The first right of the body, and there's 7 of them, y'all, is that you have to give the young people the right to be here. The right to be here. What does that mean? Children enter into schools and stand in front of teachers and sometimes feel as though they are guests in the classroom, guests in the school. They come into the space and they're coming into your world. You see, their home worlds are drastically different. Their backgrounds are drastically different. Their life experiences are drastically different. They're coming to you, and so this is the first day of school. It's not the first day of their school. It's not the first day in their home. It's not the first day in a place that makes them feel comfortable. They are coming into a world that is positioned and framed as not belonging to them. And then we want them to learn in this foreign place. So the first right of the body is to be able to understand that children come into schools where they don't feel comfortable. They come into schools that don't reflect their backgrounds, that don't reflect their experiences. And as a function of that, they feel like they are guests in the school. And a young person cannot learn in a school where they feel like they're a guest. And so our first step is to give them the right to be here. So when a child, thank you for taking the slides off. So when a child enters into the classroom and you want to bear witness to the understanding, you have to first make them feel like, look, this is your home. You have a right to be here. This is your school. If you didn't show up to school today, I wouldn't have a job. If your presence was not here today, the schools would not exist. This place was constructed and created for you. I operate in service of you. You have a right to be here in this school today. You see, can I give you a quick story? You know, anybody ever been invited to like a barbecue or something, but you ain't get the real invite? Like your man's got the invite, your friend got the invite, and your friend knows that you like barbecue. So they were like, yo, will you come to the barbecue? And you're like, okay, I'll come. So now you're at the barbecue that a person who was directly invited you to. So now you're at the barbecue and you smelling the barbecue, you smelling the burgers, the dogs, it all. It's savory. It's enticing. It's something that you desire. It stirs you up. It's kind of like the way that all young people respond to learning. Any young person who's in the presence of a place where real learning is happening, it stirs them up in their soul. They want to learn. These are young folks who can memorize the lyrics to a rap album that dropped on Tuesday by Wednesday and know all the ad libs. It's not a function of memory or intelligence. By virtue of who they are learners. They learn new moves, dance steps, TikToks, like that. You can't tell me a young person can't learn how to balance an equation when they don't learn the whole album in 3 hours. So they come into the place with a desire for the barbecue, the desire for the learning. But you get into the barbecue, you ain't get the direct invite. So now, even though the food is there and sizzling, you don't feel comfortable going to eat. So you're looking around like, dang, I'm hungry. I want to eat. I want to learn. But I don't feel like it's my place because I just showed up here. Nobody told me it was for me. So you're waiting for, what are you waiting for? You're waiting for maybe the host of the barbecue to come up to you and say, look, I know you ain't get the direct invite, but barbecue's here for everybody. You go ahead and partake and you indulge. Unless there's a direct invitation to you, even though you are at the event, if it's not saying that you can partake or indulge, you can't learn. People are like, oh, Dr. Emdin, well, the kids in Chicago aren't quite meeting the academic standards. Well, you're jumping the gun. You're doing all this phantasmagorical craziness to improve the educational outcomes, and the kids don't feel welcome. You're wasting your time. Invite them to the barbecue. Every teacher should say to the young person, you have a right to be here. I am here in service of you. Please feel welcome and comfortable to learn, to engage, to ask questions. If you give a young person the right to be here, you get the opportunity to bear witness to their capacity to learn. In the absence of that, you're just witnessing them. Because sometimes they come in just performing an identity that's not who they are because they don't feel fully comfortable as they are. Can I get a witness in here? Because that was a whole word. So you got to create the conditions for them to feel like I have a right to be here first. On the walls, invite them in. Let them see images from their community. Let them hear their music in the backdrop at Volume 3. With Dr. E is in the music problematic. Play the instrumental, damn it. Don't stop finding excuses to not do good work. Create the conditions to make young folks feel as though they have a right to be here. Then you start bearing witness. See, once you create those conditions, a young person will now start asking you deep questions. They'll now start thinking out loud. You could begin to teach them because they're being vulnerable. But a young person can't be vulnerable unless they first feel as though they have a right to be there. The next right, y'all, is the right to feel. Learning requires comfort. Comfort requires the ability, the willingness, and the conditions to be able to express a wide range of emotions about whatever experiences I am having. Y'all still with me? So a young person comes in, particularly Black and brown children in CPS in particular, and we don't want them unless they're acting in a way that makes us feel comfortable. So, like sit down, pay attention, raise your hand, be demure, be complicit. It's when you perform all the things that make the teacher and the schools comfortable that I feel like you're prepared to learn. We spend half the time in the beginning of the school year, don't smile till November, show them who's boss, be the person in charge. And what you're doing is you're creating the conditions to make them feel as though they cannot feel anything in the classroom. And you can't teach somebody who can express their feelings because your feelings are the conduit through which I can teach you content. Meaning, if a young person does not feel comfortable to express frustration with solving a math problem, and I just have to look there and smile and act like I know it, I can never express to you what I need to be able to get past my frustration. So the next right is the right to feel, and not just good feelings, negative feelings. When a young person can say, I didn't quite like the way you taught that lesson. I don't like how it feels when I have to go through the metal detector. I only felt happy that one time that you had us all stand up and stretch. I feel sad because of something that happened in my neighborhood, right? I feel conflicted about whether or not I want to follow this teacher because I know that she taught my daughter, my little sister last year, and my little sister didn't have a nice time. So once you feel comfortable being there, you have to give the young person the right to feel and the space to articulate the range of emotions. Then you got to have the humility to be able to accept the emotions that young folks share and then teach accordingly. So that and the only way that you can give a young person the right to feel and express emotion is to be able to feel and express emotions yourself. We've taken the emotion out of teaching and learning. The teacher comes in, follows a little script that's in the lesson plan book. The kids come in and they perform as though they're learning. They raise their hands and be quiet. You ever have a kid raise their hand and you ask them, you ask a question, they raise their hand, and then the kid's like, oh, I just wanted to go to the bathroom. The kid is not even tapped into the learning. The only response they just know to raise their hand because it makes you feel as though they're learning. Because there's no right to feel. So you've also got to be able to feel, emote, express frustration, express joy, express that wide range of emotions. Once you do so, you give young folks permission to feel, then be humble enough to listen to how they feel, and then move the instruction accordingly. That's the right to feel. The next right of the body is the right to act, the right to movement. Look, I know I'm hurting somebody's feelings in here today. They thought they was gonna get a whole PD on a rubric, a standard, an assessment, and then go home. Nah, I don't just give professional development. We get personal development. We get a shift in our orientation about how to teach appropriately. Because we can't keep doing the same things over and over again and expect something to shift for these babies. Anyway, y'all, the right to act. The right to act is what is this to act? It's the right to move, the right to movement, the right to physicality, the right to be able to use the wide range of emotions to express through your body. Y'all see my man Jay Webb with the ASL. His hands are going, his head is nodding. You know what I mean? He's leaning in. You understand the emotion with which I am sharing with you, because you're seeing him give himself the right to act and express. He could do the ASL and just slowly and demurely express what is to say in the most formal way possible. And technically, people can soak in the information. But my man Jay Webb matching my energy. You heard? So Dr. E a little excited, so he a little excited. The look on my face matched the look on his face. He's given himself the right to act, the permission to fully express and emote. Well, listen, our babies don't show up to school. Our babies don't learn in school because you haven't given them the right to act. Let me tell you something. The children who are underperforming in Chicago public schools perform, enact, react vividly and viscerally the second they leave the school. You ever seen them, baby? I was in Chicago this summer. They was in rap ciphers. jumping, moving, dancing, grooving, vibing. Can I tell you that certain populations, just by virtue of who they are, and where they come from, are innately physical, innately expressive. That's just who we are. So, y'all don't want me to go too. I want to go too deep for y'all today. But for certain people, I need to move my body. I need to be able to get up and jump around. Now, how are you going to have a baby whose ethnic, cultural, and environmental conditions dictates that they use their body to move and express, and then put them in a classroom where you colonize the body and only have the sitting down for 40 minutes straight for your 9th period, where all they can do is raise their hands and sit in their seats the entire time? It's literally violent. It is violent to put an expressive person into an environment where you only view them as positive or able to learn when they are complicit and demure and silent. Somebody said to me once, they said, Dr. E, if we did what you're saying and have the kids just jump around, however will we be able to have the opportunity to learn? And I said to them back, if you have all young folks sitting in classrooms, physically present, but mentally and emotionally absent, how the heck are they going to learn anything from you? You got to build in the space within the classroom structure for them to be able to be expressive. An assessment for a math problem or an English problem or a social studies problem cannot just be a written assessment. It should also be a performance. It should also be a dance. It should also be some choreography. Knowledge can be expressed in a multitude of ways. Just because our assessments are only in written form, it cannot capture the complexity of a population who requires movement and expression to be able to showcase their genius. I don't know if you caught this vibe, but what I'm offering y'all today is not just this is a Pentecostal pedagogy. You understand what I'm saying? It's a soul rising pedagogy. I want you to listen to the words I'm sharing with you. I also want you to be able to study me and the way I'm engaging with you as an exemplar of how to teach. A Pentecostal pedagogy requires a talking to the soul. And from a Pentecostal pedagogy, if you go to any Pentecostal space, I'm not trying to convince you to or convert you to a faith. I'm trying to convert you to an approach to teaching that works for babies that you ain't got before. If I go to a Pentecostal black church, a pastor will create the space for the congregation to move in the middle of the lesson, in the middle of the scripture, in the middle of the assignment. Y'all with me? Meaning he'll say, let me create some space. I'm going to create sister. The Lord just spoke to me. Sister Johnson, go stand up and go touch somebody. Meaning the preacher has the sensibility to understand that you have to build a space into the learning experience for somebody to be able to walk around and move around the church. You ain't got no space in the classroom for that. The kids ain't going to learn from you. So that's the right to act. The 4th right, the right to love and be loved. Learning must begin with young folks bringing into the classroom the things that make them feel something. And then the learning is developed around that phenomenon. Matter of fact, let's forget the students for a second. How about you? What do you love? What makes your heart beat? What makes your soul go pitter patter? What are the things in your environment that just brings you ultimate joy? And I want you to know that you have permission, you yourself, educator, you have the right to bring in what brings you passion into the classroom and utilize that phenomena to teach. You into basketball, talk about the trajectory, how the ball goes through the loop. Talk about the angles of back and forth or the parabolas and Steph Curry's shot. You're a hairdresser, talk about the chemistry and the hair braiding. You like white water rafting, talks about the ecology through your white. But I'm saying that learning must begin at a place of passion. Give yourself the right to love something and bring it in the classroom, and then give young folks permission. Do a poll in the beginning of the academic year. What are the things that you love the most? Music, dance, whatever it is. And then your job as a teacher is to create opportunities for you to be academically rigorous, beginning at the fundamental point of the passion of young people. If y'all read my books, rigor is not rigor mortis. Can I get a witness in here for that one? It doesn't mean that it's academically rigorous if young folks are bored to death. Rigor is about the expectations. It's about the benchmarks that are set. It's about going just beyond the kids' reach. But the pathway to the rigor does not have to be senseless. The pathway to the rigor is beginning with love. Teaching without love is just talking anyway. So the right to love and be loved is the fourth right of the body. The fifth right of the body, as we start rounding this corner here, is the right to speak, and that's the right to speak truth to power. Meaning, listen, do y'all know what the babies in Chicago been going through during pandemic and post-pandemic? For social human beings who cannot interact with each other, for folks to have Zoom lessons when the Wi-Fi ain't working right, for them to come out of the pandemic where they actually eventually started learning how to be able to engage on this platform and then just get pulled back into a regular classroom as though nothing ever happened, where every school and school district is going back to normal, and they were like, yo, normal didn't work for me anyway. Online didn't work at first. I was just getting acclimated to online. Now you're gonna pull me back to your old normal. Do you understand the kind of musings in their brain about just acclimating to all this stuff? Do you understand they're still recovering from 2 and 3 years of social isolation as they're getting back together? Not to talk about the social and political things that are going on in neighborhoods across Chicago, the gentrification, the having to move out your neighborhood to another neighborhood, to getting accustomed to what's going on there. Like, do you know what they're going through? And do you know that they need to vent? The right to speak truth to power is understanding that young folks who are social political beings in an environment that robs them of agency because we don't see them as full humans because they're not voting citizens, need to have an opportunity to be able to speak truth to power. Can they write a letter to the new mayor talking about the experiences in schools thus far? Can they write letters to the congressman? Can they construct policy briefs about things that are affecting their neighborhoods? Can they utilize math and English and social studies to be able to articulate their own concerns, and not just for the sake of school, but for the sake of being able to engage in political discourse to the highest seats in the land? The right to speak truth to power is the right to be seen as a full citizen with a voice, with rights to be able to engage in any sphere. Do you know what you do to young people when you give them permission to be able to be full and whole and welcome and heard? And do you know that you can connect that to learning? So the right to speak truth to power is the right to construct an environment in classrooms where young people can articulate their rights, their concerns, and their needs to not just anybody's, but to folks who are making decisions about their lives. Who is the alderman in my neighborhood? How can I construct a policy brief with historical data, experiential data, mathematical data, and scientific fact with my people to share and show up and talk to the alderman? That is the purpose of school. The purpose of school is not to memorize empty information. That's why them kids don't show up to school right now. That's why they don't want to be there. What's the purpose? In a culture of immediacy and a culture of urgency, to put young people in a school where you're saying that delayed gratification is the goal, it ain't gonna work. So you mean I learned this math formula to be able to include it in the statistics that I constructed that's now gonna go to the congressman to try to affect some change in my community? I'm with that. Or are you telling me to do this algebraic equation with no purpose, no context, no meaning? Why? So that you can eventually graduate college and go to school? Nah, they need to have results. And results come from having the capacity and the opportunity to be able to speak truth to power. The sixth right is the right to see. And that is the right to see things from a different perspective than the way that it's been given to you. Look, we have pre-pandemic, post-pandemic teaching and learning, y'all. If you think thoroughly, and I said this before, pre-pandemic ain't work for most of these babies. Pandemic ain't quite work either, but they was figuring it out. So you cannot have post-pandemic era and pre-pandemic pedagogy. It don't make sense. So you've got to be able to tap into the pandemic generated knowledge that young folks have developed and co-construct with them what a post-pandemic pedagogy and learning may look like. So the idea of the right to see is to say, look, the world is drastically different. The context is drastically different. The conditions are drastically different. The old model didn't work. we had a capacity to learn possibly a new model. How do we design what schools look like with kids? Y'all, the right to see is to say to them, how do you think the schedule should be happening? Given the fact that y'all are halfway online, do we do a half hybrid model? Would that work best for you? Would you like to do more like learning on your own digitally outside, and then we review the content, the flipped classroom model? You have to introduce young folks to diverse new models, and then be humble enough to listen to them about what schools should look like for them. Complex learning happening on social media and digital platforms. No learning happening in classrooms. Well, what is it about those digital platforms that is making the young folks connect? How may we glean some wisdom from that and how we design classrooms? Y'all, I'm a STEM educator. Spent all my career trying to improve the conditions of science and mathematics learning in this country. I work through curriculum, I work through philosophy, I work through theory. You know what my latest project is? It's called the Collider Classroom. Working with young people to redesign classroom environment. When I say redesign, what do the walls look like? Do we need a platform or a stage? What is that? Do we have any LED lighting in this classroom? Look it up. Collider. We have to redesign the classroom for post-pandemic babies. I tell folks all the time, y'all got fast food pedagogy for soul food children. Huh? The fast food is, you pull up, you make an order, you get what you're supposed to get, and then you move along, right? You consume some of it, and it's not good for you. It's not sustaining. A soul food pedagogy is that down-home cooked meal. Everybody got to be a part of preparing the dish. The babies are dying and crying to prepare the dish and tell you what they want, but you're not giving them the opportunity to do so. So the right to see is to give them the right to be able to offer a different perspective on how things work, y'all. And then the final right of the body is the right to know. The right to knowledge. See, here's what happens. Y'all get a lot of people to come to talk to educators who will talk theory all day long. John Dewey said that, Vygotsky once said that, Piaget once said that we need to, man, shut up. Okay? The pathway to connecting with young folks is quite simple, and it is to employ the rights of the body I have offered to you, to see them as whole, to bear witness to their realities, to understand their experiences, to make them feel that they have a right to be there, that they have a right to express their emotion, that they have the right to act in physicality, the right to love and be loved, that they can speak truth to power directly, that they can see things from their own perspective. And once you've done that, you give them the right to know, which is the right to high academic expectations. There's a misperception that an approach to pedagogy that censors young people means that you're lowering expectations. He's just talked about all these rights and how the kids ever going to learn. Who told you that loving children meant low academic expectations? The right to know is the right to knowledge, which is to say, I will always hold the academic bar high, but I will love you up. Ooh, y'all. I will love you up to those expectations. I'm not gonna demean the expectations and say that I love you. I'm not gonna make this less than or easier for you. In fact, there's a phrase called the soft bigotry of low expectations, coined, by the way, by a writer for the first George Bush, a Republican cat. So I'm saying that to say this. I'm not concerned with the political rhetoric for the sake of making you feel comfortable or welcome. I'm concerned about what we need to do to make sure these babies in CPS learn well. And I'm saying to you that if you're lowering academic expectations, you don't love children. And I'm also saying to you that if you have high academic expectations and don't show love to children, you're just as violent as a person who lowered the expectations. You see, for me, teaching and learning is a divine act, man. I don't know how else to explain it to y'all and for you to get it. Like, teaching and learning for me is about a calling. It's about understanding my whys. It's about understanding my purpose. It's about fulfilling legacy. It's about knowing that there's no job on the face of the planet where you can impact the lives of thousands of people directly through what you do and say to them every single day. So to me, like, teaching and learning is like to teach, y'all. Sorry, I'm going off script, but you got to understand it. Do you know what it means to teach? This ain't no job, man. To have the opportunity to be remembered forever by thousands of people. to have through your words and the love that you show and the expectations that you hold, the right to impact those who will inherit the earth. To teach is to hold a legacy. How could you betray such a legacy? By just talking based on something some idiot who never been in the classroom gave you. How can you just witness things when you can bear witness? And I say all that to say, like, if this work is truly a calling, it's vision work, it's mission work, it's power work, it's purpose work, it's legacy work, like to not do what we're supposed to do is to betray our legacies. And I can't afford to do that, so you shouldn't either. And so the rights of the body are now then situated to me through these set of tools that I call reality pedagogy, which is another set of C's. And we're not going to have all the time in the world to get through them, but I'm going to touch on them for you because ain't nobody going to come to a Chris Emdin PD or lecture or whatever and say he just gave us theory and give us practice. I'm going to give you all the things. And I'm also model for you how to teach. You heard? Reality pedagogy involves a couple of intentional practices. I call them the 7 C's of reality pedagogy, in addition to the 7 rights of the body. The first C is a co-generative dialogue. Co-generate dialogue with children, which is to say, construct opportunities and spaces for conversations with young people about what they're experiencing in their neighborhoods and in the school as often as you can. Not just, we're going to have one community meeting in the beginning of the year. I'm talking about a weekly model for feedback and reflection with young folks, a co-generative dialogue, not just a venting session. We together construct conversation, right? To improve the next experience we'll have together in the classroom. Co-generative dialogue. I'm going to give y'all a Cliff Notes version, okay? The second C is co-teaching, which is allowing the children to be able to deliver the instruction with the teacher. Not co-teaching where, you know how y'all do it, where, some other teacher gets the coffee and the copies. Nah, that the students have the opportunity to sit at the helm of the classroom and to deliver the instruction, where a student can be charged to teach content, even if they don't know the content yet. But to give them the agency to sit at the helm of the classroom and lead the instruction while you take notes about how to teach and learn that from kids. And there's a whole model behind that. So we got the co-generative dialogues. We got the co-teaching. The third one, cosmopolitanism, creating classroom environments that feel like family, like feel like home. Practically, it means having a class name, having some call and response in the classroom, having a classroom handshake, having an environment that feels like family for young folks. I can't get too deep, but you got that third C right there of cosmopolitanism. Then I'm talking about context. Context means you can't go online and download a lesson plan of Teachers Pay Teachers if it's not rooted in the context of your neighborhood. There got to be a particular, unique Chicago, sometimes West Side, like specific context cues. How are you incorporating the neighborhood where the kids live in the math problem, in the assignments? Don't just write me a persuasive essay. Write me a persuasive essay about why we should open up the park for a longer time. In your neighborhood, a context-specific learning anchors the instruction. So there's more nuance to it, but what about the context that you're delivering? Then after that context joint, then it gets to the content. Listen how I ain't start with content. Somebody in here real mad about that one. Don't get it twisted. Like, check my credentials, you heard? I know content. I teach content. I was a middle school math and science teacher, a high school physics and chemistry teacher for a majority of my teaching career. I ain't just come in here with a PhD and start telling you what to do. I've been in there. I do the work. And one thing I understand is this. I need to have co-generative dialogues, co-teaching, cosmopolitanism, context focus before I get the content. If you lead with content without creating the conditions for get the kids to learn the content, you're wasting your time. And with content, it's not you giving all the information to the kids, it's creating the conditions for them to be able to learn the content on their own. You can't be the sage on the stage giving all the information. Content is about the discovery. The kids got to discover the content. So what conditions are you constructing for them to be able to discover the content after they feel comfortable in the classroom? So that's content. Then we get to competition. And folks get mad, like competition, that's not communal. Listen, in our hood, competition is what we do. You ever seen a rap battle? Two cats going back and forth, talking about their mamas, really flip, like wilding on each other. And when they done, they give each other a pound and go their separate ways. You ever heard about the dozens and the value of that in African-American culture? That I'm gonna talk about you all day long, hurt your feelings, and then at the end of it, we become sharper and stronger together. So you must create the opportunities for young folks to be able to compete with each other. You know, I always go to schools and, the most exciting time I see in the instruction is when the kids are playing Jeopardy right before the final exam. And they're excited and they learn this competitive but loving. And I'm like, why do y'all do that only once before the test? Do you know that you can have competition in love? That you have different groups and they vying for a position to be the sharpest and the smartest person in the room? Why can't that happen around content? So we have to create the conditions for a competitive yet loving classroom environment. And then the last C on the 7 C's of that joint is about curation. And curation is, how are you capturing the teaching in your classroom and then studying that to make sure you're better at your craft? Are you voice recording yourself when you're teaching a lesson and then reflecting back on that? Are you getting permissions from parents to record kids as they're doing an assignment and then utilizing the video of the kids doing the assignment as a way that you teach the next lesson for the next class so they can see their homies actually learning? And so curation is about capturing moments, experiences, then reflecting on them and sitting with them for the purpose of activating the learning later on. Listen, in 43 minutes, I done gave y'all 14 joints that'll change your teaching life, right? You give the young folks these 7 rights of the body, and in your instruction, you employ the 7 C's of reality pedagogy. You combine those approaches and bear witness and not just witness phenomena. You recognize your power as a teacher and recognize your why so that you can find your way. You bring that full self in the classroom and you change the world. In closing, if you're at all interested in the 7 C's of reality pedagogy, the 7 rights of the body, pick up my books, right? I got to do a little promotion here. I've written a book called For White Folks Who Teach in the Hood and the rest of y'all too. Yes, that is the actual title. Because the majority of teachers in the hood is white, don't come from the hood, and they need to learn some strategies to get this work done. Can we just talk frankly? And that describes some of the 7 C's of reality pedagogy. I've written another book called Ratchetdemic, which is reimagining academic success, which really interrogates conceptually and practically the rights of the body. And then if you're a STEM educator, because for me, it's to improve all the conditions of teaching and learning, but it's also to improve the conditions of the teaching and learning of STEM and really creating STEAM. Because we have science and mathematical geniuses who will say to themselves, I can't do math, I can't do science, this is not for me. And they'll go towards the arts without recognizing that they're brilliant science and mathematical minds. And I've written a book called STEM, STEAM, Make, Dream, to really get the 7 C's of reality pedagogy, the 7 rights of the body, and then amplify that towards science and math instruction. I will close with this in my last minute. People talk oftentimes about what it means to sin, right? It's not a religious thing. It's not a faith thing. Like to sin, like when somebody has committed a sin, it literally by translation to sin is to miss the mark, right? That you have a target and you go off your target. I think the entire system of education has committed a sin against young people. For decades and decades and decades, we've just completely missed the mark. We say we love them, but we focused on things that don't honor them, and we expect them to learn from us, and it's not going to work. And a sin is an immoral act, a transgression against the divine. There's no being more divine than children. They come to us just wanting direction, wanting more. Kids in Chicago in particular, just wanting to be bigger than the conditions of their environment. And to commit a transgression against the divine souls that they are is a betrayal of our legacy. As you begin the school year, go with strength, go with love, go with peace, go with the rights of the body, and go with the 7 C's of reality pedagogy, and have an amazing school year. Thank you so much.
Wow, Dr. Emdin, thank you so much. I know Kelly and I have been out of the classroom for a few years now, and we're both chatting each other like we want to go back to the classroom now. Like, this has been so powerful and just an incredible talk. Thank you so much. All you CPSers out there, I am sending out an email later today with the link to this talk so you can share it with your fellow teachers, share it with your kids, let them know what we're doing here. We love them, we care about them, we're doing the best that we can. We're all learning together. And I'll also send out the links for those books too. There's talk about starting a book club over here in the chat, Dr. Emdin. So your CPS Dr. Emdin book club over here. So yeah, an email will be going out later on today. Dr. Emdin, thank you so much.
So I'm a teacher, so I have to interrupt really quickly. I'm a teacher, and I understand that when you teach, you also have to create time for reflection and to answer questions. I only had 45 minutes, so y'all forgive me for not having a chance to answer questions. But if you have questions, thoughts, reflections, feedback, hit me up on social media. On Instagram, I'm at Chris Emdin. On Twitter, I'm at Chris Emdin. At Threads, it's at Chris Emdin. And if you say, I'm from CPS or hashtag CPS, or, I'm from the Google group from today, I'll make sure I answer every single question. I'll respond to every single note.
Awesome.
I'll do that for the next 24 hours, right? So it doesn't get overwhelming. But I will be the teacher that grades your homework right away. But please reach out to me. And thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emdin. We really appreciate everything you shared with us. It was really wonderful. Everyone else, have a wonderful day. Like I said, I'm going to send that email out later on today. And Jonathan, thank you so much. I can't imagine how exhausted you must be right now. And everyone, thank you so much for attending. Thank you for those comments in the chat. It looks like a lot of people are really fired up, and that's really exciting. I'm so excited about that. And just everyone have a wonderful day. And I know I'm going to be chewing on this talk for the next few days at the very least. So have a great day, everyone.